So, good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, December 18th, 2025, and the time is 12:04 a.m. for most people. Um, and this is Human Services. My name is Nicole. I'm the chair. The thing we need to do is well, first of all, this meeting is being held in a remote fashion, so all calls will be done by roll. Votes will be done by roll call. And before we start our agenda, the first thing we need to do is close our meeting from October 23rd, the end of our close the meeting from October
Ver
23rd, 25.
Sorry, Veronica, you're getting some cutouts from low bandwidth. You might want to turn off your video.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Okay. Whoops.
I might be
Uh,
able to stop it for you, actually.
yeah.
There
Okay.
we go.
Thank you. Alrighty. Yeah, no, our Wi-Fi is really hinky and we find nighttime is worse around here. I guess the kangaroos aren't running fast enough on the treadmill. Anyway, so the first thing we need to do is we have to have a motion to close the meeting from October 23rd, 25. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second it.
Okay, thank you. By roll call, Suzanne,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Amanda.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So that meeting is closed. So now we can start with our meeting today. Um, so the first thing is to establish quorum. And by roll call again, I see Suzanne Keating on the screen,
Present.
Kelly Steffen,
Present.
Sue Minthinen,
Present.
Sarah Wright,
Present.
and Amanda Wright.
Present.
Myself, Veronica. So we do have a quorum from our administration. We have Jericho Melee
Here.
and Alexandria Richards.
Here.
Thank you. I don't see any members of the public on screen, and we're not expecting any guests today. So we'll go on to the next for acceptance of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
So Make a moved. Motion. Oh,
All right, Suzanne,
Sure.
and second.
second. I'll second.
Okay, Sue.
Whoever.
Acceptance of the agenda by roll call. Suzanne,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Amanda.
Aye.
Thank you. So we have an agenda. We have some minutes from 9:25 and from 10:23. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
All right. And we had a second on that.
Sure.
Okay, that was Sue. All
Yes.
right. So by roll call, Suzanne,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Suzanne, oh, no, excuse me, Amanda,
Aye.
and Sarah.
Aye.
Thank you. All righty. No public, so I don't think we have any public comment today. So now we are on to item number 5, which is the grant process fiscal year 27 for town of human for the town human services and substance misuse grants. So we had an extremely busy September, October, and November through December. And have to say, extremely proud of the work accomplished by our committee, the Contract Review Committee. We had an aggressive schedule put together to get to the point that by the end of the year, which is coming up in the next week or so, our recommendations would be ready for town administration, and our report that accompanies those would be done. We had, if we go back just to, review the timeline of what happened in the last couple of months. In August, this committee, the Human Services Committee, helped to review the application and most particularly the rubrics, which is the scoring for the grant applications. And I want to thank again Sarah Wright for doing yeoman's work and really tightening the categories and the questions. And having now gone through it, I think that it really did help the process overall. So thank you. So that happened back in August. And at that time, also, there were two major changes in the grant process that was voted and approved. And one was to do an operational grant. So the historic human services grants have been program grants. We have funded programs, and we recognize that there's some organizations that, because of their length of time operating and also their overall operating budget, that an operational grant would be could be beneficial. And so we had three grant categories. So we instituted the operational grant. And I believe in Jericho, if you can just back me up on this, and Suzanne, if you could also, in order to apply for an operational grant, there was a minimum budget that needed to be accomplished. And I believe it was $500,000.
That is correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I don't have those notes in front of me, and I'm going by memory, and I'm a little bit foggy, to say the least. So that was the operational grant. And we did have 4 or 5 of our organizations apply for operational grants. Then we had our traditional program grants, which is what we have always done, funding a program. We also put a cap at $100,000 on any one particular grant. And that's the first time we've done that. So those were two major changes. So that all took place in August. September, we finalized everything. We adopted the rubric, and the grants were released somewhere around September 15th. We also had our grant ceremony for the awardees for this current year. And that was September. In late September, we did a bidders information session just for all the applicants were invited to go over the new parameters. And we did that. And then October, we started, the grants were due, and we started the review process. And through that, we had an interview session in the beginning of November where quite a few of our applicants attended. We did not require attendance for if we did not have additional questions. we did require it for anyone doing an operational grant since it was a new category, but we did have a robust schedule. We met over 3.5 hours, I think, with our applicants. And then that led up to deliberations that we did on November 21st, I think it was. And, it was once again a very tough deliberation. The rubric was completed by all. The scores tallied, and the rubric was used as a guideline, and the way that it should be. It's a component of deliberations. And at the end of our deliberation, and when we, within the committee negotiated awards amounts, we did go back and look at the rubric scoring, and it pretty well matched what we were what the results of the deliberations. So it was, as I said, it was a very aggressive schedule, but here we are. We have our recommendations, and soon after, Jericho and I have been. Jericho did the vast majority of the writing here. I did editing. We conferred. We added in, and we have pretty well. I think it's ready, and I haven't seen the last edits, so we are ready to present this to town administration and FinCom. Basically, I'm just looking at we'll talk about substance misuse first because it's a smaller category. And we had 2, 4, 5 applicants, and 3 of the applicants have gotten funding. 2 of the applicants are receiving zero. Our recommendation is for zero funding. And once again, if we had, thank you, Jericho. I see you've got it on the screen now. That is the timeline there.
Let me just find the, oh, and it blew all the formatting as soon as I displayed it. The actual report looks better than this. I don't know why it just moved around all my spacing. But I can pull up the rubric response. Where is it?
The rubric is at the end. It's in the appendix.
But I should have the rubric results.
Yeah, the rubric results are appendix 2.
Oh, okay. I did shuffle.
The end. It's at the end. Oh,
I don't know why
yeah.
it looks such trash right now, but there we go.
Okay, here we go. So, let me see if I can move. Okay, I have a box right in the middle of that, but I have it in front of me. So those are the rubric results, and you can see the substance misuse is on the end there. So as I was just saying, when with the award recommendations, we had 2 organizations that we are making a recommendation for zero funding, and one of them is a new group called New Hope, who had applied in substance misuse. They also had an application in the human services area, and the area for human services we felt was much stronger than the application in substance misuse. And once again, with limited funds that we had to make a hard decision. So they did not get funded in substance misuse. MCTV had asked for a hefty amount, and once again, one of the other criteria that we always look at, and particularly in substance misuse, is treatment and prevention. And MCTV, with their program, their public service announcements, etc., and it's a whole robust curriculum. They also had an application in human services, so we zero funded here, but they did get some money in the human services programming. So you can see what our recommendations there. Jericho, I'm going to jump ahead just now because we're talking about the recommendations, and we've had some conversation. Historically, our organizations have not been notified until after public annual town meeting. And of course, everything that you're looking at is pending approval by FinCom and by town administration, and then the final is going before annual town meeting. So this money allocations that we are recommending are just our recommendations. And historically, we have not notified until after town meeting. And Jericho, I'm going to turn it back to you because you've had some direct conversations with some of the applicants. So
in general, our past practice was to notify no one when I started until after town meeting was resolved, and often as part of the grant agreement process would be the first notification. In the years since I started, if anyone makes a direct request to me about it, as this is public information, it is in the packet, it is online in our meetings, it's not hidden information. If an agency makes a direct request to me, I will at the very least tell them that we have made a decision, and if they have or have not, and then I often will tell them the amount. My general thought is that we should have a process to notify people when the deliberation process closes, so they know that a decision has been made. And then we should notify people of their results so that they can do forward planning. Many of my requests were were prompted by budgetary restrictions by the nonprofits. So if you're trying to fill out a budget for your coming year to show it to your board to get approval for the budget, you need to know how much grant money is incoming. So that's another consideration. The reason why we don't do a full notification before town meeting was traditionally because the process, the vote could be altered on town meeting based upon that, which would be, not a great thing for the legitimacy of any recommendations we make. But I think there's a happy medium we can find where we notify all the applicants that there's that the deliberations have been done, and then we inform them of the amount of their award in the lead up to town meeting, and then follow up after town meeting with agreements and so on.
And of course, that notification would have a strong message that pending town meeting approval, because that always is, that's the final approval. It's our voters that, either yay or nay this. I can understand from a planning point, and also there are a number of other grant applications that are now becoming due. And, if you know how much you are potentially getting, it has a bearing on applications and planning for next year. So can anyone throw anything in on this, add to this discussion? Any opinions?
I mean, I think as an applicant, it is nice to hear. I mean, I know because of being on the CRC myself previously that I can go back and watch the videos, which I am totally upfront to say that I have. I watched the deliberations. So for those of you on the committee, thank you for your hard work. Just because I'm trying to report to my board what's happening, and there are a lot of grants that come in by the, that I was waiting on for the end of the calendar year. So I was able to give a sense to my board and my development committee what we might anticipate from the CRC, constantly explaining that these funds don't get approved until, May. They're not available till after July, and that, how the process works as to getting reimbursed for things. But I think letting people know, why not? It doesn't hurt. It's public. And you just clarify with, this is the recommendation.
I would love a motion or something, and then we can do a notification that would just include this table with the requests and recommendations in an email to all applicants.
Okay, so what you're potentially suggesting is not just notifying a applicant that this is what their award is, but publishing the table, and everyone can have access. They do have access if they, as you said, they can look at our meetings, but for providing the tables that we have here, or
So I
an
was
individual.
whichever is fine with me. I was just thinking it's easier to send one bulk email than it is to send 17 individuals and follow and backtrack responses to that. The other consideration for that approach was that is as close to logging into the meeting as you can get. But which if there's a preference one way or the other on that, I'm happy to follow the board's or the council's desire.
Okay. Well, would someone like to make a motion, and we can then have some discussion? A motion by someone. I see Sarah with your hand up.
Yeah, can I just ask a question about that? Like, are there any unforeseen consequences that would arise like that? I feel like there's potential, but
Historically, there have been changes to the allocations on the floor during town meeting, which I think is the root cause of the not sharing as broadly as possible. If I think that we have a little bit more in the way of supporting evidence now in terms of why we made decisions the way that we did. But I can also do an alternate approach to this, is letting everyone know that deliberations have finished, and that they can a link to the YouTube video that contains the deliberations themselves and their final output.
well, I would support the motion for the email, Jericho, as long as there were a caveat that addresses exactly what you just said. There could be this is all pending, or not pending, or pending maybe, and there could be some changes on the floor at ATM, something to that effect. I would support that sort of amended motion, but I think if we just send it out and we don't include that, then we set ourselves up.
I'm sorry, I there was going to be other verbiage in there. It wasn't just going to send an email with the
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I gotcha. I gotcha.
I will very quickly rough out some copy for that. I should have it for you guys in about in a minute or so.
Okay. Can we maybe have some talk about individual awards or giving everyone the chart. The plus and minus of that, because my full transparency, Jericho, your hand is up.
Sorry, I would just suggest that what I would do is I would write a hello, the deliberation process has completed. Please find at this link and send the link to the meeting of the discussions, the final allocations and awards for this year. That way, that is exactly what you would get if you had attended the meeting, which everyone has a right to do. So I feel like that might be um, what's it called, compromise between the individual or the direct. Otherwise, I can do your recommended award for this year is X. It is basically contingent on Article 9 passing at town meeting. Please attend town meeting and make your voice heard, or things to that effect.
Right.
I have
You
a,
know, Suzanne?
yeah, I feel like letting the people who we have, you know, approved or recommended for grant approval, letting them know that that has happened, but letting everybody know, you know, like you weren't approved. I think it's better to just say something like deliberations have concluded, and then give them the link so that they can go and see what we talked about and decided for pending town meeting approval.
Right. You know, we are, everything we do is 100% transparent. Our meetings are videoed, and anyone can watch them on YouTube. Anyone is invited to attend our meetings. So it's not that we're hiding information. I guess my gut just tells me that if I received an email with this chart and now I'm looking saying, gee, you know, like, how come
Why
they got
did
that and I didn't? And, you know, and what repercussions could that have? Because this is still in the recommendation portion. And, you know, I know that we have, we're living in a very unusual world right now. And, you know, I think that we have more civility, but, you know, I would not want, you know, there to be an outrage or, you know, so that's my gut, and that's my gut at, you know, the middle of the night for me talking. But that's where I would stand on this.
Well,
So
and that's kind of why I said what I did, because I think once people go to the deliberations, they'll see our process of how we decided and what we talked about.
yeah, yeah. And I do think the zero awards, we have talked about that, and in deliberations that those the two this year, and you know, this is the second year that we actually have had some zero awards, and that's a hard message to get, and we have talked about the organizations that are getting zero award recommendation, that they would get a communication with you know, being notified of that specifically. So you know, back in my business days when we would call that the let down gently letter that would have to be written, you know, because we don't want to it's a hard thing because we don't want to discourage people from applying. We want new and new ideas. We want new programming. We want robust programming, but unfortunately, with being capped with a dollar amount and that we had, it was a tough decision. So that would be the end there. So so we've got a couple of different ways of going here. So would someone want to tackle a motion with an
Well,
approach?
I'm just trying to understand more about if it's all public information and we'd give them a link to the meeting, what is the harm in just giving them all the whole list for the sake of efficiency and
Saving them an hour of watching.
saving them an hour? And I mean, like, their feelings are going to be hurt potentially if they didn't get what they were hoping for, but that's just reality. Like, what's the fear in letting them all see it up front?
Jericho, I see your hand up.
So I see this is more of a general thing, but so the presentation side by side like that could lead to, I can see, sure, the information, it's the same information in both, but there is different context around it, and having it just drop like that in the middle could lead to some people being curious one way or the other as to how the decision-making process is made. We can back that up with our rubric responses to a degree. I think that replicating the process of how you would access the information, going to watch the video, seeing the context around it might make it an easier pill to swallow. And on those zero awards, since those the specifically like the NCTV and the New Hope Zero Awards and substance misuse, those were both for sort of, well, for NCTV it was an outreach project, and for New Hope it was a recovery program. I am in the process of looking for some other grant funding to cover some of those zero awards potentially. That's something that I do every year. There's a couple of other grant sources locally. I look at the CRC grant process and I try and figure out which categories of things that we for structural or for needs-based reasons, but were worthy programs. I see if I can patch the hole with other funding sources elsewhere. But I do think the grant, if it just got dropped like that and you're wondering why did X get Y and not having the context for it, I could see it landing in a particular way, not so much from the applicants themselves. Everyone who applies to these grants understands that it's an ask, it's not a guarantee. But possibly from people who are not as involved in the grant process who see it and are wondering why. And I figured just the cover for that is not cover, the rationale for it is if you could have collected this information on your own, how would you have done it? And then what is a way that is, not gonna land in a way that provokes a rapid response. As I said, I think the full block of awards may be useful information to pass on. I certainly think that the video itself and explains why we made the decisions we made in a pretty good way. And I can throw in like a timestamp for when the actual decision making is to minimize the amount of time for it. But I can see both sides of this angle. I can also see why we traditionally didn't notify anyone until after town meeting, because these kind of questions pop up.
Mm.
Exactly. I would be much more comfortable with a individual notification, and I'll just because I'm looking at the top of the list, and Addiction Solutions, you've been our recommendation. Your request was for 100,000. Our recommendation is for 100,000. If and pending town meeting approval, and if you are interested in, seeing, then giving them in that communication, a link to go to where you can see everything, but to do it individually, because our goal is to notify. I have to go back to the reason we're doing this. People need it for their planning purposes and their potential requests, et cetera, that they would be doing. And by giving everybody the entire chart right there, it sort of, the message, our goal is to notify the applicant. And so not that we would giving them the link so they can see the other, Kelly, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I have a hand up too, Amanda.
Okay.
And do you
All
want to
right.
go? Do you want to go first, Amanda? You're
Sure. I mean,
physical hand would have
I
been-
agree with what Veronica is saying. I think it'd be nice to let them know what the amount is, so that they can kind of plan ahead for the next year. But I think then including the link to the video is helpful, because then people can go and kind of see if they want, what the conversations were had. But I don't think we need to give it, just send this table to everybody. I think it's just going to cause angst, and we're kind of meeting them in the middle. If they want to kind of find out why they didn't get the money, they need to watch the video like anybody else would.
Okay. And Kelly?
I was just thinking, like, within the context of like communication with individual entities, like it feels right to have a more conservative approach as to not like risk trust in us and the CRC. But like it also feels like there's an underlying question here too, or like an underlying point of like, can the community be like, or can we help the community like understand more effectively like the variety of needs? Like if everyone's constantly operating it like within a silo, it's like they don't get enough funding, but like there's no kind of context as to like what other programs may have got more or less. And it's like, as I don't know, like I think the most effective like social service or safety net for a local community is something where like all the information's accessible about who needs what. And it feels like a kind of a good bigger goal. But yeah, then like at the individual level, I kind of go back to like not doing anything that makes someone not want to come back to the CRC.
So I think the balance could be, as we notify their individual award, and then with information to go to a link where you can get full, you can see the process, etc. I hear what you're saying, Kelly, because our goal here also as the Council for Human Services, and is evident with doing the needs assessment that's currently underway, is to really let our community know of all that happens and all the needs, and it takes a village, as we know. But I have to go back, the original of people wanting to know what have I received or what is the recommendation. Keep that message clear, and then certainly the link is there. You can get all the information, and we at a later date, I think we need to continue more communication like we had with our just the award ceremony, and the town has been doing wonderful public information videos and Instagrams or whatever, that hopefully we could get some of that space, quote unquote, or whatever. So I'm rambling on at this point. So maybe is anyone ready to make a motion?
I can attempt to make a motion, but Jericho, do you?
I was gonna say, my proposal for the happy medium here would be an individual response of one of three categories. One for award, for two categories, One, which is here's your recommended award, and the value. For the 0 awards, we'd have a different one. That just to let them know that unfortunately you did not receive any funding, and then a link to the video. The opening would be like, the CRC has completed its deliberation process. The following recommendations are not final until town meeting. After Article 9 is approved at town meeting, you will be contacted in order to arrange a grant agreement to cover the program X. Your award amount is Y. Please, the deliberation itself is in the video, and I would throw a YouTube video in there.
Okay, so my motion is to notify the individual organizations of their recommended amount that will go forward to FinCom with the language Jericho just delineated, that there'll be one for people who are being awarded some funds, and then one that are for organizations that did not receive funds, and include the link and, yes, the language Jericho came up with.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Second. So, by roll call, we have Kelly,
Aye.
Amanda,
Hi.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Did I get everyone? And myself?
And me.
Oh, is that
Sue,
Suzanne?
aye.
Oh,
Sue.
Sue.
Yeah,
Sue.
Sue.
Okay, Sue. Yeah, I don't have
And-
we are back up now. I can
Here-
see everyone.
here we
Thank
go.
you, Sue.
And I
And
want to
so-
say that, can I make a comment with my eye?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So I'm flipping and doing this more conservative approach because I think it's the first time we're doing it. So while my instinct is to just put it all out and be as transparent as humanly possible, I am swayed by the argument that let's start off small. Let's see what this does, and not try to upset people, but we're still inviting them into the process and to see what the information is that they can have, but maybe not upset the apple cart.
Jerk, I'm
Okay,
wondering
thank
if
you, Sue.
CRC would have to approve this as well.
I don't think so. This is technically under CHS. So communications, level setting, etc., I think is within the bounds of CHS, but it's definitely something like it. One of the reasons why I have not, like, I wanted this to be above, like, everyone to be involved in this process, because I think it is a way to, it is useful communication with nonprofits. It kind of directly connects a presentation process with an outcome in a way that I think would lead to better subsequent applications. And I think by including the YouTube link and the video, it will give everyone that they will eventually get to see that table of how they compare, what the needs are, where our allocation priorities were, that will help improve sort of overall needs for the an understanding of the needs in different areas and by different agencies and what programs are going on. And then I think that as of next year, we can have a kind of from start to end timeline going, you can expect this kind of communication by this date, so that it's less of a surprise and it doesn't ruffle feathers. Because I do think, like Kelly makes an excellent point, having it in context is useful in and of itself, and that we really do have a island-wide silo issue that I think that CHS and CRC has a responsibility to kind of address, but you can't come straight at it because that turns into lecturing. So just build it into the process whenever possible.
Right. And, I think Sue, by the way, my last vote, I vote aye, so that motion passes. And, Sue, I think, once again, we've made significant changes over a period of time. And sometimes, baby steps, are the best. And, for some reason in the back of my the two people that sit on my shoulders, I hear the thing saying sometimes no good deed goes unpunished, so putting out the chart, I think it is eventually, I think that is something that has to be publicized, and we need to let people know this is what we funded, this is what the needs are, this is what we're trying. But right now the purpose is to notify people of what they are, what the recommendation is, and a link to, you can see the rest. And eventually you come to town meeting, this is in the warrant, and and then after that, we need to continue our communication to the entire community. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I think this was a healthy discussion, and it's a process, and we're moving along, and just trying to do things the best for our community. So, all righty. So back to the actual report. We talked about substance misuse, and then there were 4 operational grants. And if you go back to the rubric, there was an additional scale for the 4 applicants, and that additional scale had to do with the overall budget because there was a minimum amount, and so there was additional scoring there. So if you
Sorry for the scrolling.
okay.
God,
There's
there's so terrible. Okay.
There you are. So see where the bump
Yeah,
out,
additional
it says
category,
total
yeah.
there. And that's in a peach, background. So they were the operational grants. And and I see there's a spelling error under financial, but that'll be corrected with editing. So there was an additional scoring there, but we did have those 4, and it was, once again, a new category. Feedback we got from some of the applicants that, they found that it was, a better, it was not a better application for them, but basically this is what they need, as opposed to they need money for an overall capacity building. So I think we had some positive comments when we were going through the interview process on that. And I think, we will have a review session with CRC. We have a meeting in January. And I think we will do a review of the process and have some discussion come out of there. What worked best, what didn't work, etc., and with recommendations for the process for next year. But it was a new category, and there were some concerns that we were trying to do things too many changes at once. But the way that our cycle goes, if we did not do this for fiscal year 27, it would be until fiscal year 28 before we could potentially have changes. So we're as Jericho has said, we're changing the tires on the bike as we're going down the road. It is a process, and we will make improvements after review, et cetera. But I think for the organizations that applied for the operational grants, it was, I think, helpful. And then we look at our program grants, which are the list that you could see in the yellow above on that on scoring. And once again, the rubric did come in well used, and a good guideline for certain. And we had a variety of different programs. And I'm just singling out maybe Small Friends. Small Friends, we historically had funded their summer program, and they came to us with a greater need this year, and it basically, they have a staff retention problem, as many do on the island, but I think they're even more in the preschool area. It's their salaries are not, they're not great. I don't know if that's not the right word, but people work very hard, and typically in preschool area, you don't go in that to make big bucks, and their teachers don't make big bucks for sure. And one of the benefits that they offer for their staff is a tuition reprieve, but it's to the cost of almost $100,000 or so in their budget every year. And they asked for some relief in that area. And that was something new that they had not brought to us before. And, there, as with every one of these applicants, the need is great. And unfortunately, with limited money, we could not fund them 100%. There's very few organizations that did get 100% of what they asked. So it's, the need is out there, and, every time going through this, there's needs we don't even realize, but it's all tied together. And Small Friends is a good example, to support the community for our workers. There needs to be robust childcare, and if the childcare can't hire enough staff, they can't have enough slots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all tied together. And I wish we could just wave a wand and give everyone everything that they ask for, but it's not reality. And here that was a new need that came to us, and it certainly is a strong need. Suzanne?
Yeah, I want to point out, it was, in deliberations, one of the things that stood out to me for the Small Friends is that they have a whole classroom empty, that because they don't have a teacher, and there's more students or children in need that could be supported. And the whole process was a lot of juggling. It was very difficult to try and fill all the needs, but that really did stand out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because with Small Friends, through COVID, they had open classrooms, and there were challenges at that point, but their challenges are great in getting certified people. But what was actually very good, they also and this was through the interview process, they are supporting, and I'm not going to remember the exact words right now, but the gist is working with the high school and with basically staff development. They provide in-service and training so people, their employees have the ability to advance and get certifications, et cetera, and to support them having enough staff. So, when we look into the operations of all of these organizations, it just tells me how much effort and, here we're just looking at a name of an organization and, what they've requested and whatever, but, what's represented on this page with these recommended awards is it'd be interesting to see how many lives are impacted and how many of our how much of the community, both on a worker side and the benefit side or whatever, that there's an awful lot that's happening behind each one of these titles of a program or an organization. So it's, it just reminds me what a wonderful place that we do live in. Our needs are great, but we also have great people making all of this happen. And Jericho, anything more on the report at this point?
No, I adopted and tweaked a couple of the suggestions or the comments left. I'll send that back to you at the conclusion of this meeting, and then we can send it around to everyone here so they get a good look at it. As long as the recommendations are in by the end of the year, FinCom has sufficient information to work with so that we can probably postpone a full approval of the report and just send over the draft until our next CRC meeting. So, our next both
CHA.
I would like both agencies or both boards to see and approve this before we send a full one out. But the draft can go out to this body and to CRC, and then we can send the draft over to FinCom if they need additional supporting evidence at this time.
Okay. That sounds perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. With no more on the approvals, or not the approval, on the recommendations, everyone will get a copy of this once there were quite a few comments or whatever. So Jericho will massage that and we'll get it out, and we'll have it for our next meeting, and the approval of that will be done then. Next on the agenda is an update on the needs assessment. So I'm going to turn that to you, Jericho.
I'll be extremely brief. We are approaching 200 responses, not inclusive of some paper surveys that were sent in that should just be getting entered in now. By the end of the year, we should exceed 200, which puts us just about 2/3 of the way to our desired sample size. The radio ads are up and going in Spanish and in English. I'm talking with Marcos, our contractor on this, to sort of track and see if there's a notable change between response rate and the radio ads, just for my own purposes. The additional stakeholder and next steering committee meeting should be coming up in January. I've also asked Marcos to hold some time in January for either or both of this meeting and the CRC meeting to just give a brief update and initial discussion of what he's found from the benchmarking with other communities, the key informant and stakeholder meetings that he had, and then the beginnings of the statistical analysis of the needs assessment survey itself. Reasonably confident that we're going to exceed our target number at this time. We've got about 4 months. The on the ground outreach is going to start up again after the new year. And then we've got some physical media going places. I'm trying to get the QR codes for the survey out to a couple of spots that I think are going to be useful. The dump is among them, as is a couple of retail locations, and then just kind of circulating them around town staff and other large employers internally to see if we can get some workers' opinions in on this as well. So that's going pretty straightforward. And then we should have additional responses by the January meetings for Marcus to share with us.
Okay, thank you. You're up again with your human
All right.
services director report.
So a big chunk of what we're doing is that needs assessment. This report is underway. We're working on a couple of potentially interesting larger scale human services programs. One with the school regarding a gap between vision screening failures and prescriptions. I'm doing a vendor survey right now about both on-island opticians and then potentially some off-island mobile eye doctors to do vision and prescription writing clinics for on-island kids. And then in tandem with the Community Foundation, we're exploring some pre-K assistance programs designed to increase support for both parents and providers of early childhood pre-K education. At least one of those, I'll be able to have, we'll move on to the full planning by early spring. And then the other one should hopefully be, as it's a part of a pilot program that's public-private, be something that we might be able to get started this summer and into next year. I can't go into too many more details because we're trying to make sure we have funding sources and vendors and everybody's aware of what's going on. But those are two things that we're working on that are looking very viable. Then in addition to that, working with the Nantucket Center for Elder Affairs to assist in them doing potentially a renovation and expansion to a portion of the Saltmarsh Senior Center that should expand the size of the great room and then add some much needed administrative space for NCEA. Past that, vaccine operations are going to be wrapping up by early next week here for the town. If you know of anyone that needs a COVID or a flu vaccine, please reach out, let me know. We have open office hours with Aaron, and then we also have some capacity to do deliveries. We have 2 satellite clinics tomorrow at the Athenaeum. Tomorrow at the Athenaeum, there'll be a small clinic. And then we have pop-up clinics going on in a couple of different places, basically at direct at employers. But if anyone needs a COVID or a flu vaccine and can be around before Tuesday, please give us a call. Tuesday of next week.
Okay. I also, just looking at information that's been online, I see that there's been some QPR trainings taking place. So
did a large one at the Department of Public Works. Thank you for reminding me of that. And then hopefully that is going to spin out to be an ongoing employer-focused training where we can do QPR courses for large employers, town departments, anybody who might benefit from it. And then we're also looking for a couple of other kind of member of the public level of trainings around behavioral and mental health, as well as working with Shanta and CSB, Shanta at Culture and Tourism and Rosemary at Community Solutions for Behavioral Health about potentially doing some public facing events in the spring ahead of the summer that are kind of low key pro-social behavior. That also kind of leads to some an opportunity to do some behavioral health education, training, and outreach. That's in the tentative stages. I'm terrible at throwing parties, so I'm letting other people push that, and I'm just supporting.
Okay. Does that refer to the first aid for mental health? Would that be available again, or is that part
We
of
do
that?
have, no, that is separate. That is, and you'll know exactly why I am bad at planning parties after I tell you the name that I proposed for it, which was Behavioral Health Fest, which is probably not moving the dial. But it would be more of like a community event that will not have that as a final name, that will be primarily about pro-social, like for pro-social behavior with like background or optional behavioral health components.
Okay, so pretty well like a health fair, but a specific health fair for behavioral health.
More like a block party that has behavioral health components around it is the idea.
Okay, all right. That
This is
sounds
why I'm not a party planner.
okay. Alrighty. But the germ of an idea sounds fabulous. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And we do have behavioral health first aid classes planned. I think we have there are Spanish language ones that I think are in the works for early next year. And then there are a couple of behavioral health trainings that we're doing in concert with the Cape Cod Training Center, and then there's a Cape Cod Behavioral Health Education organization that's embedded in Cape Cod Community College. So I think that's another one that is heavily a product of Community Solutions for Behavioral Health. But there's a bunch of like kind of provider or first responder focused trainings that are underway or scheduled for the next couple of months.
Okay, Jericho, if I can ask if that's open to our committee or for anyone to attend. I know that last year I did the program from Cape Cod, the First Aid for Behavioral Health, and I thought that it was an excellent program. It's an all-day training, and I think that if we can make that available, that would be fabulous.
So I want to get my details correct here, so I'm just digging in my inbox. The next behavioral health training, there is one morning session for first responders. Then there is an afternoon session that is open to the public. That is at the training room at Fort Fairgrounds on January the 8th of next year. And we'll do some additional communication around that. Primarily for the community, the public community part, but that is one in the series of those Cape Cod Community College funded. And this is mental health first aid specifically, which is like a 4-hour certification.
Yeah. I know, Amanda, I think you were in the, we had attended last, I can't remember when it was, if it was in the springtime or whatever, but I know, Amanda, you were in the class also, and I just thought it was fabulous. Lots of very good information and techniques and whatever for everyone. So if that could be available, that would be wonderful. Going on to, is that the end of your report? All right.
Probably.
Okay, probably. Okay. If anything else comes up, just let us know. The next thing is anything from our committee, community human services items for discussion. Does anyone have anything they want to bring to the committee or discuss? Okay.
Sarah has a hand up.
With none.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
I don't see the hand. Okay.
All right, that's okay.
Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. So we have received through, I'm just thinking for a second. I can certainly say this publicly. we have received through Mass General Brigham, through the health system, we've received a small number of Stop and Shop grocery store gift cards, a modest amount of $25 each. And we have very strict criteria in terms of who we can give those to, who we can issue those to. And although we do help people apply for SNAP frequently, we don't have, just like a list of everyone who has an active EBT card, or even, we don't track that in that way, who we've just helped. And because you help people apply, and then there's a process that the Department of Transitional Assistance has to go through to verify documents and approve, like say, okay, you're eligible and so forth and so on. So if you know of people in your day-to-day who have active EBT cards, are current SNAP recipients, you can certainly let them know about this, because I want to get them where they need to go. I've made the Nourish Nantucket team aware of this as well. And they're focused on lots of other things within their purview too. So if you can just help me spread that word, that would be great. There are about, I'd say, 35 of them left.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And Kelly, you probably could, add to that. I know that there's also a program that the food pantry had taken over for a short period of time, but I believe Nourish Nantucket is back with going to administer and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name now. My brain is going mush. If Kelly, you can add something to that.
Uh, yeah, I was
It's
just curious where you were going. Like,
well,
Pantry still has a prepared meals program. Nourish also has a prepared meals program.
but it was
Um,
the gift card, the
oh,
Stop
yeah.
and Shop, and I can't remember what the name is at the moment that was. So there are beside the cards that you're talking about, there are some other programs that are available for people to purchase their own food from Stop and Shop. And I know even the warming, I'm losing my voice, I'm sorry. The warming place, hands out, gift cards. And, so it's just like another option for our food insecurity on the island. So, it's good to see that.
Veronica, are you thinking of
It,
Fresh Connect?
I can give some context to this. Not Fresh Connect. It is they are just Stop and Shop gift cards, and they're with preloaded amounts. I It's a pretty big number of how many they're giving them to. I think unfortunately the program is full, but they're working on a wait list, and they are anticipating getting more funds to pull people off that wait list.
yeah.
Um, but so that program is like kind of available. I think they're trying to find ways to kind of ensure that people on wait lists aren't sitting on there too long, and kind of share resources a little more
Right.
thoroughly.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for
And
that.
And then
I put my
Sue-
hand up, yeah, for
Yes.
an announcement. More just a plug. The warming place is open, operating 7 nights a week. We are pretty much at the same speed we were at last year at this time. We tend to get a lot more people showing up January, February, when it's really bitter and windy. But we're certainly being kept busy with our guests and we're grateful that they come and find us, because we know that there are more people out there that could benefit from our services, and whether they don't know about them or are choosing to stay in alternate places. We aren't sure. And that we've been having a growing great relationship with the hospital. Amy Lee came and toured. She put a wonderful plug, I think, in the newspaper and in a newsletter, and lots of people in the hospital have been really very supportive of what we're doing and trying to partner with us, because my understanding, and Sarah, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, is that a lot of people, I guess people who are our guests typically are a lot sicker in the winter, and that being able to be inside and be warm and get, some solid meals is actually doing a great job of preventing them extra time in the ER. And so we feel really good about that we're keeping the ER less busy with heavy emergent, like we're making room for people who are really emergent. And I think that's good, because all of our resources are so scarce, and that we're keeping people well is even better. Like, we don't want them to be sick. We don't want them to need the ER, but
Right.
When they do need the ER welcomes them.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Amy wrote a really nice op-ed, which was in last week's Inky, which you can read in print or online. And I think the general message was one of, gratitude for the entire human services ecosystem here on Nantucket. Because, to your point, of course, the warming place does help us keep the ER here decompressed and level to some degree. So we don't have huge spikes of, in the winter as well. And prior to the warming place, I wasn't here then, but I think that, obviously that could have occurred more frequently, and the warming place is doing a great job meeting the need. I know that, I think a lot of people are really feeling a great deal of economic insecurity because they're calling us and showing up, and we've just went through, Medicare Part D open enrollment, just as an example. Some drug prices have come down, but others have really spiked, and premiums and whatever else is going to happen between now and the foreseeable future around the subsidies for the ACA plans, the Health Connector plans, remains to be seen, but there's a lot of economic insecurity. And so, that's everything from mortgages, rents, and food and transportation. So I would just echo what Amy said in her op-ed, and I appreciate your bringing that up. So thank you.
Oh, of course. And it's just an example of, I know what I'm seeing in both my PASCON role and in my warming place role is that the silos aren't as strict as they were. I mean, people are really trying to come together, and I'm holding Nourish Nantucket, the land bank, and the food pantry a kind of a bit on a pedestal for making that new complex, that building purchase. I mean, like, that's just smart. None of us can get a building on our own. So I think it's great leadership by example on how you can get something done. And I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some of the organizations I work with jump in that game and make some really important things happen.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you. Any other? So we can go on to new business. Any new business? All right. That brings us up to
one thing
yes
that I
Sue?
did that I did it with my Council for Human Services hat kind of tucked in my hand, but I don't know if you noticed that in the Current there was an article where in the court report, where they chose not to name the alleged perpetrator of a sexual assault against a minor, because they felt like, well, they stated that disclosing the name of the alleged offender would be a very easy way to identify the alleged victim in the case. The council had kind of brought in the media a few years ago to talk about the court report, the potential harm naming names does. And so I wrote a letter to the editor complimenting them on making that editorial choice. It's not a choice they have always made before, or at least in my opinion. I found that they had sometimes given away too many details of victims, that it made it easy to me to figure out, hey, if they live in the house with the minor, I mean, like, that's kind of telling who the minor might be. So I offered them the compliment and gratitude for being discreet, and called the rest of the media community to follow suit. And I did that with the council in mind, but I only signed my name because I couldn't figure out how to get that in front of everybody quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sue, because we did spend a fair amount of time and discussion on that, and we did have some members of the media attend, and we heard their side. And I understand, it's the media wants to give information that they think people want, but we were pressing for more sensitivity and thinking of the victims, and protecting the community at large. So thank you, Sue, for making those comments. Appreciate that. What I'm looking at with no new business is our next meeting date. And I know that particularly that if we are going to be inviting Marcos from the Needs Assessment Organization, I'm looking at my calendar, and this is just on a personal side. Our next meeting would be on the 22nd of January, and that is a time that I absolutely would not be able to attend. I'll be in transit and just won't work. I'm going to make a recommendation that could we move our meeting to maybe the 29th of January rather than the fourth Thursday, if we can do it on the 29th. Would that work for people?
No objection.
Okay. Jericho?
I'm just looking, I think it should. Oh, wait, it should be fine, but my calendar is being a huge jerk. Yeah,
It
that
would
should be
be
fine.
it would be the fifth Thursday in January.
That's absolutely fine.
Veronica, I wanted to check because I had a question from town admin. If we're keeping the same schedule for meetings apart from this January one, do we want to keep reserving the fourth Thursday as usual?
Okay. Does that work except for this next meeting, but noon on the fourth Thursday work for everybody as we're going into the new year? Okay.
Lots
Perfect.
of thumbs. Yep.
Okay, so except for January, that'll be on the 29th with the 5th, the fourth Thursday at noon. So thank you, Lexi. And that actually one other thing I should have brought up under new business is we had a resignation in our committee. Deborah Gudemond has now, as people have gotten some communications probably from her, she now works for town administration, and she is the person who is responsible for scheduling of meetings, of committees, et cetera, et cetera. So she needed to step away because of a conflict of interest, but we do have an open seat, and I am sure that the application process is going to open again. So please, if you know of anyone, let's start doing some recruiting to, so we have a full committee. So thank you. So next meeting, January 29th, 2026 at noon. Before we have a motion to adjourn, I just want to wish everybody a healthy, peaceful holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and to a new year full of joy and peace. So with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved, and thank you so much. Same to you, Veronica.
Okay.
I second the motion and your wishes.
Thank you. So we'll start. Suzanne,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Amanda,
Hi, and happy holidays.
thank you. Sarah
Aye.
and Sue,
Aye.
myself. So happy holidays, everyone. Be safe. Be kind to yourself and to your neighbors and your community. So have a good one.
Holidays, everybody.
And the next time we get together, I will be stateside, making my way back up to the island. So, I'll be back on island the beginning of February. And so this is my last time from down under. It's beautiful, sunny. We've had unbelievable weather. We're waiting for the real hot stuff to hit, but I have to say, I love winter, but I am enjoying the Sunshine Coast immensely.
Mm.
All right. So be
Safe
well.
travels.
All right.
Enjoy.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.